Welcome to the Teardown Project in Fate, Texas. The reason it's called the Teardown Project is because the homeowner hired a builder previously that came in and built a structure and it was failing. They had issues with it. They couldn't get the builder to make the corrections. They ended up in an argument with them, which then led to litigation. Then they brought in an engineer and the insurance company, and it was deemed failing and structurally unsound. So we came in, tore the old structure down, and rebuilt the entire project, which we're going to show you. So let's first talk about the problems that were in the original structure built by the previous builder. Number one, they had undersized material. Number two, the engineering was very, very poorly done. And number three, the way that it was set onto the house and tied in, there was a lot of movement happening and it was causing damage to the home, and the structure itself was starting to fall forward and tear away from the home. So here's some of the primary corrections that we made once we tore the old structure out. We redesigned it and reset it according to the house. So when we tie in, as you can see, our beams are tied into the walls and not set independently on freestanding posts. And then we came in and we added a massive ridge beam instead of a ridge board. It's actually a triple LVL, which offsets some of the load, which then leads us to this massive header beam. It's actually 4 LVLs with a big oversized ridge support, again, to offset some of the load off of the house. And then we put these 4 big 8x8 posts here to support it, so we make sure that we're stabilizing this large header beam, but again, keeping the load dispersed so it's not all resting on the home. So here's another detail that we did. The old patio built by the previous builder, they left the soffit and fascia on. So there was a heavy soffit and fascia here and all along this patio area that we took off completely. And the reason we did is because when you leave it, there's an intrusion into the structure and it just makes it not feel very customized. It feels like you've literally stuck a structure onto the back of the house. So of course we remove all of that and we build up flush from the back wall and then tie it in, burn all out with tongue groove and trim it in the manner in which you see now. So material specifications. A big problem with this structure is that it was made with too small of material. It was overspanned, it was sagging, and it was actually damaging the home for a number of reasons, because the ridge was improperly set, the beams were improperly set, and a lot of the load of the structure was shifting back onto the house. So we came in and we corrected all that. We built new headers along this back wall to support our new ridge support. We increased the ridge beam size. We increased the header beam size. We increased all of the rafters, not only in size, but in their frequency. So we went from a 24-inch center to a 16-inch center. That way we have less roof sag. And then of course we increased the size of the material to make sure we can make these long runs. In conjunction with that, we used a solid header beam. On the old structure, it had a split header, which was actually pushing forward, and the structure was collapsing and falling down off of the house. That was one of the major issues. So by adding this solid header beam, this larger ridge, and offsetting our load and equally distributing the weight, we now give it a lot more stability, and it's definitely structurally sound. Finishes on this project. As you can see, it's all done in cedar, and it is finished with a pecan stain. A couple things we did differently is we did a double trim on the bottom of the post and a single trim at the top. We usually do it opposite, but this customer really liked the double trim down below and the single at the top. We wrapped our LVLs with 1x cedar, and then we came in and did all cedar tone groove, flush mount lights, 1x4 trim all around the backside. There's a little bit of an integration of the white trim. That was the customer's choice. They just liked the way that looked. That's very subjective. And so we wanted to finish it exactly the way they wanted and tie it back into the siding of the house. So another interesting feature of this project, you notice this beam is low, and the reason for that is that their roof line is low on their house. It's an older home, and it has a low roof line. And we want to make sure our soffit and fascia tie in exactly with the house so it looks like it's intentionally built that way. So we have to set the beam height according to that. And then as you see, we set it all the way around, but we elevate the ceiling high enough that it doesn't feel like you're in a low setting. So we always talk about things to think about in your build and where you want to place strategically. Outlets, speakers, lights, fans. This is a great example. These little oscillating fans, we highly recommend them because even though we have a big ceiling fan up there that moves a lot of air, these oscillating fans strategically placed can really change and make a difference in your outdoor space to keep the air circulating much better than just a ceiling fan alone. Now let's talk about these lights, which I really love these lights. If you see, they're nice and flat. They're not recessed. They have a black rim and a completely flat face. So by them not being recessed or in a can, their propensity to collect bugs and dust, and spider webs is virtually zero because of the way they're nice and flush. I really like this type of light whenever you're using a flat ceiling. So here's another thing we really like to do on all projects. We like to take our ridge support and match our post at least the width. In this case, we actually use full 8x8 posts, which looks really cool because it makes everything look bolder. It doesn't look chintzy or small or cheap or like it's just barely hanging on by a thread. If you notice, we have these big 8x8 posts here, and it matches our 4 8x8 posts that we have on the bottom. So this family loves to be outside. They have a lot of celebrations here. They like people coming over on the weekends. They pretty much live outside all the time. So when they were thinking about doing this project, they didn't just think about the patio cover. They knew they were gonna do a pool. They knew they were gonna do a shop. They really wanted a place that their family and friends could come hang out and enjoy. They have a massive backyard. So they did all this with the long-term intention of having all these different spaces that they could operate in. So remember that. Anytime you're building a project, think of what you're gonna want 5 or 10 years from now and make sure you design it that way so you can place those things in time as you're ready to build it. Our teardown project taught us many things, and hopefully we shared some things with you that'll help you. Number one is always vet your contractor. Go deeper than what's on the surface. Look further than the pictures and the pitch. It's very important that you understand that and know who you're dealing with and what they're capable of. The second thing to really think about is when you're doing a project, think of how you want it built and all the other things that you're going to be doing down the road in your backyard space. And last but not least, make sure you're building things exactly the way you want, because you're the person that has to look at them for the next 5, 10, or 20 years. We're wishing you the very best. Thank you for watching our video, and remember, always do the right thing.